Okay. So um, he wasn't allowed to. Um, sorry. So she was refused visa. I did say to them that there's a chance that she would be refused because she has no reason to return. My client said to me that, oh, yeah, but she's got other grandchildren there and a child. I said, but they're not dependent on her. She's dependent on them. How it looks, she's dependent on them. Even though it was her business, which she's given it up to her. So they applied regardless, and it was refused. They applied once again, refused again. I then said, well, maybe if she were to return to her business in some capacity, that would help. And it did. It did. She took over the business again, um, and joined her son, and they worked together, and she got the visa. So the reason to return is a vital vital aspect of the visa being refused. If you don't have a valid reason or good enough reason, then the chances are be refused. Years ago, as you've rightly said, years ago, yes, you could go to appeal and have it turned over because the judges looked at it differently. But how as it is, they don't. You don't have that right. Walaikum salam. So, as I said, hopefully that answers your question, Adran. Moving back to the Renters Reform Bill, all the siblings and parents are there and going back in time not help. They're not dependent. She's not dependent on them. Sorry, they're not dependent on her. That's the reason. If they were dependent on her, if she was the breadwinner, it's different. She's not the breadwinner. Someone else has now asked, I want to apply for my friend visit visa. Which is the best way to do it? How do you mean which is the best way? If you want to apply for the visit visa, sure, you can sponsor them. You can provide your bank statements, your pay slips, etc., and your ID and a letter, and fine, you can sponsor them. Right. Okay. You can sponsor them, but she's saying that she wants to sponsor someone who's quite poor in Pakistan. Look, if it's a genuine visitor and they have genuine reason to return, then yes, she'll get the visa. If it looks like it's not a genuine visitor, then chances are she will be refused. You say she's quite poor. Does she work? Does she have assets? What reason does she have to return? Sometimes the Home Office give a reason of a refusal being the fact that you do not have enough income or savings to justify this visit. So if she has no savings, then they'll say, well, your outgoing will outweigh your income. Therefore, what reason do you have to? How can you want to go to a different country and say that I will return at the end of the visit? So that would be her main issue. Although I'm supposed to be talking about the Renters Reform Bill, it's a lot of immigration questions coming up. Someone said, but our is a medical reason. Why don't have any relatives? I mentioned to you earlier that lady that wanted to come over to visit her grandchild, that was a medical reason. The grandchild was severely ill, but still it was refused. So, we may say in our eyes, in your eyes, in my eyes, it may be a good enough reason. But on paper, as far as the Home Office is concerned, is there reason to return? That's the main thing. more so than the reason to come here, the reason to return back to your home country is the biggest issue that they see. So I'll move on back to the renters reform bill. As I mentioned, the new property portal that will be coming into effect, um, which will be created, and all landlords will have to register their properties and comply with the standards, legal standards there. Now, tenants will be able to access this information about the landlord's compliance history, which they can do so, I suppose, and see if the landlord is any, has any bad history. Also, besides that, so there's other changes as well that are proposed. The right to request a pet. Now, I know that a lot of landlords don't like pets in their properties. But as of when this bill comes into effect, the tenants will have the right to request a pet in their rental property, and landlords cannot unreasonably refuse. So, what is unreasonable though? I know a lot of landlords will say, well, the pet's not clean, this, that, the other. But is that a valid reason? Is that a reasonable reason to refuse? What landlord can do is they can require pet insurance to cover any potential damage. So if the pet, I don't know, dogs sometimes, they scratch and damage doors, etc. So they could ask for pet insurance to cover that. So Adnan, I think you're asking where we're based. We're based in Wolverhampton. I'm also live here on Radio Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton. We're live on our studio number is 01902 972 150. Questions can also be asked via WhatsApp on 07 440 420 432. So we're happy to take any of your questions live in the studio if need be. So with pet insurance, so the impact that this will have, this right to request a pet, the impact it will have is that the tenants with pets will find it easier to secure rental properties. So currently, I suppose there's a lot of landlords. If you look at any adverts, it says no, pets not allowed, etc. So now they will be allowed. Landlords will have no without good reason will have nothing to fall back on to say, well, you can't have a pet in my property. Now, landlords will have safeguards in place to protect their properties. So an example of this is a family in Leeds was previously denied a rental property because they had a dog. Under the new bill, they can request permission and the landlord must consider it fairly. So, can you pin your number, please? Pin my number. I will see how to. What you can do is follow me, and I'll see if I can put it on my my status later. So, moving on, the decent home standard for private rented sector. Sorry, the throat's getting dry now. Ramadan. We love Ramadan, but sometimes we They say you could kill for a drink, but no, um, we got to see it through. Not long now. So the decent home standard, which currently applies to social housing, will be extended to the private rented sector. So that's another change. So properties must meet minimum standards for safety, repair, and livability. So the impact that this will have, the impact that this will have, is tenants will benefit from safer and better maintained homes. Landlords who fail to meet the standard will face enforcement action. And so naturally, a landlord will have to look after their property and improve its standards. Now, again, we mentioned earlier that there's a lot of landlords who, as long as there's a roof over your head, here you go. But the fact of the matter is, tenants are humans too. They have a right to live in decent houses, decent properties. After all, whether you've been paid by them or being paid by council or government, it doesn't matter. They still have a right. So the impact, as I said, will be that tenants will benefit from safer and better maintained homes, and the landlords who fail to meet the standard will face enforcement action. So there's a lot of red tape and regulations coming into force, which may be one of the reasons there's a lot of landlords leaving the sector now. I've seen a lot of landlords is selling up their properties. So that may be the reason. Now, a tenant in London, for example, lives in a property with mold and damp. So under the new bill, the landlord must address these issues to meet the decent home standard. Currently, tenants can go to the council. They can go to environmental health. Environmental health will write to the landlord. Giving the landlord time, they'll visit the property also and make a list and give the landlord time to address the issues. So a decent home standard will be so that it's the same standard as social housing. So with this bill, there's been many delays. Obviously, this bill has been in the pipeline for a while now. So the bill was introduced in Parliament in May 2023, and as of April 2024, it was still in progressing through the legislative process, and has not yet become law, but it will. Everyone knows it will. It's heading that way. Hi. Someone is saying hi. Oh, that will be my son, Aslan. Hi, Aslan. How are you? I guess your granddad has picked you up from school. I was wondering who keeps saying hi, dad, hi, dad, hi, dad. Right. So the delays, the bill has faced delays in Parliament, leaving tenants and landlords in limbo because no one actually knows when this will come in and is it coming in. Likelihood is it will come in, but when, we don't know. So critics argue that the government needs to prioritise the bill to address the urgent housing crisis. Obviously, there is a housing crisis out there. There seems to be more people in need of property, more people in need of a home than there is homes available. So there's a lot of properties that are in disrepair, which could be brought back into use. There's a lot of property which is commercial property, which is in disrepair, which could be brought into use as residential property. So there's a lot that the government could encourage and assist in to get roofs over people's heads. Talking about that, stamp duty, they've now reduced as of the end of this month. That threshold is reducing. I'm not sure whether that's a good idea, because obviously that means that people won't be able to afford the properties that they were able to afford before, because obviously what they had for deposit now will go down towards stamp duty, so harder to save up for a deposit. So yeah, there's quite a change, which I feel maybe governments don't always make the right decisions. Um, Sometimes they feel that this is the right way of going about things, but not always is that the right way. Um, Now, with this, so this will also the impact on the landlords. I mean, some landlords fear the bill will make it harder to manage their properties, leading to a potential exodus from the from the rental market. So they are leaving. Landlords are leaving because they don't think this bill will be fair for them. Um, Now, however, some supporters argue that the bill balances tenant protection with landlord rights. I don't know. What do you think? What's your opinion on this? Do you think that the new bill will be balanced? Will it be um, in favor of one rather than the other, or um, or would this make it fair and balanced for both the landlord and the tenant? Personally, my opinion is maybe it's swaying more towards the tenant than the landlord. You know, I feel the landlords did. There was some need for some kind of legislation to monitor and monitor the landlord activity, but maybe this is a bit too much, and yes, a lot of landlords will leave. Um, so how will this affect, or how does this affect people in Wolverhampton? So Wolverhampton, like many cities, has a significant private rental sector. The bill could improve conditions for tenants while ensuring landlords operate properly. Um, so local organisations such as Citizens Advice Wolverhampton can help tenants understand their new rights under the bill when it comes into effect. I believe the Citizen Advice are currently helping a lot of tenants when they go to court to try and assist them to remain in their properties. So that's what I had to discuss about the reform. So the renters reform bill, that's basically the crux of it. That brings us nicely to near the end of the show. If anyone has any other questions, feel free. I have 1 minute to go, so if anyone has any quick question, I'm happy to address that question. And if not, then I'll take your leave shortly. Now, I've seen that a few familiar faces have joined me on my other platform. Sorry, I'm live on both Facebook and on TikTok. Joshan, hi. Someone says they can't see me on Facebook. Can you see me on Facebook now? Anyhow, so I will leave you for another week, and inshallah I will see you next week with my guest, who is a tax advisor specifically for properties, and we'll be discussing stamp duty. We'll be discussing people who have not paid tax for